to be in conversation with each other if you are virtual, and we encourage you not to talk during things. If you're in person, you can talk afterwards. That was a joke for everybody. Maybe you couldn't see me smiling. Good. Okay, so we are very thrilled at this point to open, as we always do, with a words of gathering, which is our way of coming together, of learning from people's different particularities of faith, and spend with each other. And we are very, very excited. I'm very excited to welcome today for our offering of our words of gathering, Rohinton Rivitna, who is a member of the Zoroastrian faith community here in Chicago in Burr Ridge. And he is going to be offering our words of gathering. So welcome, Rohinton, and thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Rohinton Rivitna. I am a Zoroastrian, originally from India, engaged in interfaith work. In India, where Zoroastrians settled from ancient Persia 1,000 years ago, we are known as the Parsis, beneficiaries of Hindu welcome and tolerance. Hence, allow me to take the liberty to dedicate today's words of gathering to the Hindu tolerance. In a few short sentences, let me give you a flavor of the religion of Zarathustra. It is a religion of responsibility. We call ourselves Hamkars or co-workers of Ahura Mazda, charged with the responsibility to eradicate evil, promote good, and work to make his creation blissful, which we call Frashokarati. It is a religion of consequence. You do good and reap the rewards. You do evil and suffer the consequence, here in this world as well as the next. It is also known as the religion of the good life. We are enjoined to live a good, useful life in the service of humanity. Zarathustra preached the faith in Central Asia some 4 millenniums ago in the Bronze Age. Divinely inspired for the first time in human history, Zarathustra declared that there was one God, and he called that God Ahura Mazda. Ahura is Lord, and Mazda is wisdom, the Lord of wisdom. He then proceeded to lay before humankind 7 attributes of Ahura Mazda for humankind to emulate. Chief among those was Vahuman, the good mind, from which proceeds good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. Humata, Pukta, Uvarashta, sometimes written on our altars as a constant reminder. The second most important attribute was Asha, truth or righteousness. We are followers of the natural law of order and harmony. You might recall nature's law in the US Declaration of Independence. Each of these 7 attributes also relate to the 7 elements of creation, of which we are enjoined to be stewards of. Hence our reverence for the earth and all elements of creation, such as waters, air, plants, animals, etc. You may have heard of Cyrus the Great, who released the Jews from Assyrian captivity in Babylon, and his first Bill of Human Rights, written on a clay cylinder that he gave his subjects in 550 BC. The original is in the British Museum, and a replica in the United Nations as a model for good governance. Our community is actively engaged in placing monuments in the image of Cyrus's cylinder in public squares. Perhaps CTS may become a recipient in the future, maybe. Zoroastrians have many symbols. Chief among those is fire, which represents the divinity on earth and is kept burning in our temples for thousands of years. If you wish to get a little more in-depth understanding of the faith, please register for the Introduction to Zoroastrians offering of 3 online classes of 90 minutes duration each on Saturdays, June 8th, 15th, and 22nd, presented by the Zoroastrian Association of Chicago and organized by the CTS Interreligious Institute. You may contact Ms. Kim Schulz for more details. I shall end with one of the 3 short cardinal prayers which are constantly on our lips. They are in ancient Avesta language, the language of Zarathustra. Hashem Vahu, Vahestem Asti, Usta Asti, Usta Hamai, Yadashai, Vahestai Hashem. Truth is good, truth is best, truth is happiness, happiness to the one who gives happiness to others. Atha Jamyad, Atha Afrinami, may it be so as I wish it. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The Sanderson Award for Women in Leadership was established in 2006 in memory of Judith Parks Sanderson. Judith had an outstanding career as an educational development manager with leadership roles at William and Mary College, Princeton University, and the University of Chicago. She worked at a time when women in managerial roles were rare, as the glass ceiling limited opportunities for women to advance. During her career at the University of Chicago Medical Center, Judith was responsible for raising $750 million. After retiring in 2003, she had planned to assist startup nonprofits in their development efforts and wanted to mentor younger women who showed management promise. After she died the following year from ovarian cancer, a fund was created at CTS in her name to provide a cash award of $1,000 each year to an outstanding woman to assist in furthering her career. The woman selected to receive the award each year is one who has demonstrated leadership qualities in her chosen field and is committed to assisting others in their personal development in the fields of education and community well-being. This year's Sanderson winner is Yasmine Abou-El-Kheir. Yasmine first came to CTS as an unpaid intern about 12 years ago. I learned that fact today. I find that fascinating. A time when she was a graduate student at the Informational School at UIUC. At the time, the late Reverend Dr. Neil Gertis was still the library director. Yasmine returned to CTS 7 years ago to take on the directorship of the Learning Commons after the departure of Evan Boyd. Since coming to CTS, Yasmine has steadily worked to align the Learning Commons with best practices in academic and theological librarianship. This includes the introduction of a discovery platform enabling the CTS community to search for materials through a single search box, and transforming the Learning Commons into a digital-first library that prioritizes the needs of our distributed learning community. This year, Yasmine will be concluding her 3-year term on the board of ATLA, the American Theological Librarian Association, a position for which she was elected by her peers. Yasmine received a master's degree in Islamic Studies in 2021 from Bayan when they were still at the Claremont School of Theology. She's also certified in Master Online Teaching from the University of Illinois at Springfield. We are honored by Yasmine's many gifts and delighted to present her with the Sanderson Award for Women in Leadership.
Assalamu alaikum. Hello, amongst friends here, but feeling a lot of gratitude. There's nothing like feeling the care and consideration of your colleagues. Like your friends, your family have to like you, but your colleagues don't. So when you feel their care and appreciation, it's really special. I've been blessed to work here at CTS. It's been quite amazing to see all the students coming through and getting to learn about their passions and their convictions and their life journeys, and just being a part of that, I think is reward enough. So thank you.
Thank you, Yasmine. The G. Campbell Morgan Award for Excellence in Preaching is named in honor of the Reverend Dr. G. Campbell Morgan, who received a Doctor of Divinity from CTS in 1902. Dr. Morgan was voted one of the 10 greatest preachers of the 20th century by the Christian Century magazine. His preaching was known for its emphasis on the great themes of Christian theology: creation, providence, and redemption, as directed toward the great social and spiritual crises of the day with prophetic pastoral precision. He was a genius of expository preaching, unfolding the biblical text with rigor, compassion, imagination, and art. The G. Campbell Morgan Award for Excellence in Preaching comes with a cash prize of $1,000 and is made possible by an endowment gift from Dr. Morgan's grandchildren, one of whom is longtime CTS board member and life trustee, Howard Morgan. Howard is our former board chair, as well as the former chair of Interfaith Youth Corps, now Interfaith America. He's a member of the Fourth Presbyterian Church in Chicago. For this year's prize, we asked students to submit a sermon, a khutbah, or a reflection. Given the current context of election year tensions and daily news about global conflicts, we asked students to select a scriptural text and a topic that address the polarization of our society and offers fresh and compelling responses to address this growing division. The prize this year goes to Imam Tariq El-Amin. Tariq earned an MDiv in Islamic chaplaincy from Bayan at CTS in 2022 and is currently a student in the DMin in Public Ministry program. He's the resident imam of Masjid Al-Taqwa, and he keeps busy with a wide variety of projects. He's the founder of the Chicago Black Muslim History Tour. He's the producer and voice of the Conscious Connection Project, which produces English audio recordings of the Holy Quran. These are accessible on YouTube. He is also a board member of Arise Chicago, an organization that's a national leader in worker rights advocacy. We are delighted to welcome Imam Tariq El-Amin to read his award-winning submission.
Thank you. And the submission is entitled Justice Requires Submission, Cooperation, and Trust. Indeed, the praise is for Allah. We praise him and we seek his assistance exclusively. We seek his forgiveness and we seek refuge with Allah from the evil suggestions emanating from within and the harm thereof. Whomsoever Allah guides, there is none to misguide them, and whomsoever Allah allows to be misguided, there is no one to guide them. I give open testimony that there is no deity worthy of worship but Allah alone. He has no partner in the dominion of his creation. I give further testimony that Muhammad, to whom the Quran was revealed, is his servant and messenger. Peace and prayers be on him, on his family, his companions, and all those gathered in righteousness. Ameen. O you who believe, have taqwa, this deep and incomparable regard and reverence that is unlike the regard or reverence we hold for anything else. Have taqwa for Allah, as it is his right to receive taqwa, and die not except as Muslims. O mankind, fear your Lord, who has created you from one soul and created from it its mate and dispersed from both of them many men and women. And fear Allah, through whom you ask one another, and the wombs that bore you. Indeed, Allah is ever over you, an observer. Assalamu alaikum, beloved community. We gather in gratitude, with humility, and in hope that our belief will sustain righteous actions. This word righteousness, it is both a claim and an aspiration for those who seek the pleasure of their Lord. We want to be counted among the righteous. But we know that righteousness is more than a uniform worn to be recognized by others. As our father Abraham, on him be peace, said, "Indeed, my prayer and my service of sacrifice, my living and my dying, are all for Allah, Lord, cherisher and sustainer of all the systems of knowledge." Righteousness is seen in the whole life of the believer. The whole life, not one aspect, not just the private life, not just the times when we're reading Quran or praying Salat. It's not just the times we're comfortable, and it's not just the part of life lived with those who agree with us. Why do I mention this? We have to understand that righteousness truly is. We have to understand what righteousness truly is if we are to know how it applies to our shared freedom space. Allah tells us in Surah 2, Ayat 177, righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, but true righteousness is in one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives wealth in spite of love for it to relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, those who ask for help, and for freeing slaves, and who establishes prayer and gives zakat. Those who fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle. Those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are righteous. We'll unpack that in a moment, but as it relates to the place of righteousness in our shared freedom space, and for your own edification, this is a term coined by the late Imam Tariq Muhammad that speaks to the intersection of our individual independence in light of our common concerns and goals. But as it relates to this verse, we have to understand it within the context in which we live and believe. And we can't look at this through an individual lens. These are community instructions. These are instructions and directions for societal governance. When we think about the prophets, we see people being called back to righteous living as an expression of their belief in God. The goal was to have a society governed by the righteous in service of justice, caring for the orphans, the needy, the dispossessed. The ayat or verse explaining righteousness does not paint a picture of a world without difficulty, by no means. It addresses the potential ugliness of society with the beauty of faith in action. And this is why we should consider what we are being called to at this very moment. We are not being called to wholeness. We are not being called to answer God's demand of those who profess belief. We are not being called to the kinds of acts that alleviate hunger, that dispel fear, that lift up the fallen, and that promote and preserve the dignity of every human being inside and outside of our borders. We are being called to selfishness, to suspicion, to envy, and to hatred by those who profit from division. They profit from a divided people, from a people who have themselves been separated from that sacred connection that demands righteous action. The people are tricked into closing their hands around their wealth, into becoming covetous of their social standing and insistent upon holding on to unearned privilege. They have been separated from the responsibilities of wealth. They have been divided from their true purpose. The prophets of old called the entirety of their people, the rulers and the subjects, the weak and the strong, the healthy and the infirm, the whole people. And the people's proof of their acceptance was by and large what they did with that shared freedom space. Their preaching was for the benefit of society as a whole, not the benefit of a segment of the people. I find it odd that as believers, many of us have become comfortable with a bifurcated life, a life that is lived in two imaginary parts. our sacred life, and our secular life. For the believer, as it was for our father Abraham, on him be peace, all of our life is sacred. Our political life and our educational life, our leisure and our labor, our art and our worship, they are all sacred. Why does it matter? Why should we care about righteousness and the separation of our lives into imaginary halves? We should care because if we accept the suggestion that there is only a certain part of us, and only at particular times that we should be present with God, then we lose the benefit of that connection, that divine inspiration rooted in our remembrance of God, which has been a critical element of moving our nation out of darkness into light. Our nation has had its moments of awakening, moments where it looked as if its plentiful resources would be used to heal itself. Now, I want you to hear this verse again. Righteousness is not that you turn your faces towards the east or the west, but true righteousness is in one who believes in Allah, the last day, the angels, the book, and the prophets, and gives wealth in spite of love for it to relatives, orphans, the needy, the traveler, those who ask, and for freeing slaves, and who establish regular prayer and give zakat. Those who fulfill their promise when they promise, and those who are patient in poverty and hardship and during battle. Those are the ones who have been true, and it is those who are the righteous. This verse is not addressed to an individual. It's addressed to the believing people. These are social aspirations and societal proofs of belief. When we think about the problems that continue to plague our society, problems that in the minds of many are just inconvenient, uncomfortable, and unavoidable realities that come with living in a modern society, we realize that righteousness is not present. Think about this. 40% of the food in the United States is wasted. Food makes up 20% of landfill material. And finally, the methane released by food is a greenhouse gas 21 times more powerful than carbon dioxide. Now, juxtapose our food waste with the realities of food insecurity in the United States. In 2022, 44.2 million people lived in food insecure households. 11.7 million adults lived in households with very low food security. 7.3 million children lived in food insecure households in which children, along with adults, were food insecure. And 783,000 children, that's 1.1% of the nation's children, lived in households in which one or more child experienced very low security, very low food security. We are called to belief as a people, as a nation, and carry the responsibility of proving ourselves through our collective actions. What does it say about us that we lay claim to being the strongest, the richest, the most technologically advanced nation in the world, but we have millions of our neighbors who either don't have enough to eat or don't know where their next meal is coming from? Do we tell the hungry to wait outside restaurants to sit through garbage at the end of the night? Do we tell them to visit the landfills to quell their hunger? When we are separated from our natural sensitivities, then we are left with unnatural circumstances. When we are separated from our natural sensitivities, then we are left with unnatural circumstances. Poverty is not a natural circumstance. Homelessness is not a natural circumstance. Violence and dysfunctional families are not natural circumstances. Climate change is not a natural circumstance. None of these things are inevitable, but they are a certainty when we don't treat our whole life as sacred. the recognition of the sacred aspects of our wealth, not just our financial resources, but all of our resources, our intellect, our enthusiasm, our empathy, our patience, our interest. These are all resources. And when we recognize the wealth of resources we have at our disposal, it is incumbent upon us to not just enjoy them and take pride in them. It is essential to us living our whole sacred life that we use those things for the relief of those who are disadvantaged. It is not enough for us to have individual postures on what ails society. We must have a collective response rooted in our shared commitment to the establishment of righteousness. The verse I shared with you tells the believer to begin with their own family and then move outward. We cannot be champions of peace abroad if we cannot achieve it at home. If it feels like the world is in turmoil, it's because we have become separated from our purpose. We have allowed ourselves to be cut in half. And the half that is most needed in the world right now is the half that is being told it has no business in the public space. We aren't talking about faith tradition. We're talking about what faith looks like in the public space. We're talking about champions of those who are unable to advocate for themselves. We read in the Holy Quran that surely with difficulty comes ease. Surely with difficulty comes ease. We don't deny the difficulty, but we have faith that if we act with our whole selves, with every sacred fiber of our being, that we will be able to find the ease. We will be able to not only withstand, but we will be able to repel the fearmongers and the ones who profit from the suffering of others. We are in a time of proving. The proof of our righteousness will be found in the public space, our shared freedom space. This is not about us having the same faith tradition. It's about us having the same commitment to righteousness. And we pray for Allah's guidance. Thank you.
Hello, all. On behalf of President Braxton, who is unable to be with us today, again, I want to congratulate you, Yasmine, and you, Tariq, on receiving these awards today. As we move on with the rest of our day, as this group here moves to lunch, may we continue to recognize the good and to celebrate the good of those in our community. And may we continue to be champions for those who long for justice. Thank you. Go in peace.
Have a great day, everyone.